Hi guys, we're going to talk about the multidimensional tool as your assignment. So you're going to make a multidimensional screening tool. You're going to take the two major models of multidimensional approach and combine them to make a workable, usable document to help screen and or identify early childhood students, pre-K to third grade, at risk for or currently displaying disruptive behaviors. You're going to provide instructions for staff explaining the function of your tool, the evidence research behind your tool, how to use your tool, how to interpret the results, and the next steps based off of the result. This paper is going to assess your ability to integrate research into a practical application. So there's a couple of requirements. The tool requirements. Your tool must combine the two models discussed in the chapter. So it has to have the axis 1, which is severity, and axis 2, the dimensions of behavior. So review the criteria for conduct disorder and oppositional defiant order from chapter 1 lecture to determine which behaviors you feel should be included in axis 2. Remember that some of the criteria are not developmentally appropriate or they're developmentally impossible, as young children don't run away, they're not truant. So you're going to have to look at that and find what are those behaviors, those dimensions of behaviors that are going to be important to include. And then how are you going to define severity? Is it going to be defined by frequency? Is it going to be defined by duration? And then you're going to include the 4 dimensions that are included in the 4-factor dimensional model: aggression, noncompliance, temper loss, and low concern. The tool should have a way to differentiate normative behavior from clinically significant behavior in regards to the 4 domains. So when we're talking about axis 2, and we're talking about the dimensions of behaviors, a lot of that is also going to be included in those 4-factor multidimensional models. So you're going to have to include those 4 in your axis 2, but you're going to want to look and see if there's others that you think that you need to include from the CD and the ODD diagnosis. The format. There's no specific format for the tool. And the reason that I say this is because I found in the past that if I give a specific tool or if I give an example, everybody's ends up looking like that. And that's not what I want you to do. Each of you has had various experiences across ages and settings. You've had use with some checklists, rating scales, Likert scales, questionnaires, behavior observation sheets, and graphs. You also probably have an opinion as to which tools you like and you didn't like, and which ones you found more or less useful. You can choose any of those methods for your screening tool. You can choose a combination, or you can choose any of those that aren't mentioned there. The tool should be designed how you conceptualize an intuitive, user-friendly tool that yields useful information. So I know that this might be unlike something that you've done in the past. So if you're going through and you're trying to figure this out and you're really stuck or at a loss for what it might look like, go ahead and email me and we can troubleshoot some ideas. For the instructions, you should have 1 to 2 paragraphs of instructions with your tool. You must provide the following for the staff: the function of the tool, why are they using it, and what is the tool trying to determine and or rule out. The research behind your tool. You're going to give references for the information you use to create the tool, i.e. the criteria comes from the DSM-5, items are modeled off of similar screening tools. What I don't expect you to do is complete hours of research to include items that are both valid and reliable. This isn't a tool that you're actually going to be using, so we don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on that. What I do want you to do, though, is to get the process of what it would be like to create something, because if you were asked to do something like this for your school district, then you want to have the basis, and then you would factor in all of those other aspects like the research and the reliability and the validity. I do expect you to be able to integrate your knowledge of disruptive behavior disorders, the readings that you've done so far, and the commonly used tools in the field of EI. You're going to explain how do you use the tool. You're going to explain how staff members should complete it or fill it out. These may be in-depth directions, or they might be simple depending on the tool that you devise. If it's a questionnaire, then your directions are going to be pretty simple. Answer the questions. If it's something that's a little bit more complex, then you might need to provide a little bit more in-depth directions. How to interpret the results. Once they fill out the tool, how do they determine if the results are normative behavior or if they're clinically significant behavior? And then the next steps. What do the results indicate? Is it normative behavior and there's no further action needed? Is it clinically significant? Should they start an evaluation? Or is it borderline and maybe they want to do more observations before they determine whether or not it's clinically significant? There is a rubric attached, and it's pretty basic. It pretty much talks everything that we just talked about in the requirements. And like I said, if you have any questions, if you're kind of stuck on this, feel free to shoot me an email. We can have office hours and we can work through this together. I'll see you guys next week.